My name is Alex Harper, and I'm 32. I'm the co-founder of a successful biotech startup based in San Francisco. I've spent most of my life in the shadow of my older sister, Emily. She's the golden child, the perfect one. Successful in her own way, socially flawless, and the pride of our parents. Despite my achievements, despite paying my parents' bills, a hefty $6,000 a month, they still see me as the inconvenient daughter. I've learned to swallow the disappointment every time they praise Emily's new art exhibit or her latest Instagram collaboration while brushing off the biotech breakthrough I spent years building. In their eyes, I'm just tech support, quiet, reserved, always available to fix a glitch or cover a bill. It wasn't always this way. When we were kids, Emily was the bright, extroverted one, effortlessly charming everyone. I was quieter, more interested in coding or reading medical journals than joining school plays or social events. Our parents would cheer the loudest at Emily's recitals, while I sat at the back, immersed in my own world. They never missed her events, but I can't remember them attending a single science fair where I presented my projects. In college, while Emily was experimenting with photography and bouncing between degrees, I was already on a fast track to biochemistry. I worked 2 jobs to cover my tuition, but Emily's art school was fully financed by our parents. At the time, I didn't question it. She was their favorite, and I was the other one. After graduation, I founded the startup with my partner, Ryan. We poured our lives into it, long nights, ramen dinners, and countless rejections before finally landing a grant that changed everything. I still remember calling my mom to tell her the news. She congratulated me briefly, then pivoted to Emily's latest exhibit at a local gallery. My accomplishments were always footnotes in the family story. Last week, my father called. He sounded tense. The annual Mother's Day brunch was coming up, and apparently I wasn't invited. He mumbled something about not wanting to make Emily's new boyfriend, Dylan, uncomfortable. Dylan's the CFO of a major retail chain and Emily's newest trophy. My presence, apparently, would be a distraction. It wasn't anger that struck me first. It was numbness, like a dull ache from an old wound. But then, something shifted. For the first time, I didn't argue or offer to stay quiet in the background. I just hung up. For the rest of the evening, I replayed the conversation in my head. It wasn't just the disinvitation. It was the realization that I'd been funding their lives for years, without a hint of gratitude. I paid the mortgage on their house, covered the utilities, and even paid for their anniversary trip to Italy. Yet, they saw me as a burden. I pulled out my journal, scribbling down thoughts. Why was I doing this? Was I trying to prove myself to people who would never see me as more than an inconvenience? I took a long, shaky breath and made a decision. I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't fight. I would just stop. That night, as I watched the city lights from my apartment, I felt something crack and fall away, a weight I hadn't noticed before. I was done being the convenient daughter. I wouldn't ask for validation. I would just quietly reclaim my own worth. I didn't say a word to anyone. I just opened my banking app and canceled the auto payments for their house, the mortgage, utilities, all of it. I made a small note in my journal. Stop being convenient. For the next week, I focused on work. We were finalizing a partnership that could expand our product's reach across Europe. I barely thought about the brunch or the fallout. I guess part of me assumed they'd notice and reach out. But silence filled the days. Until Sunday. Around noon, my phone buzzed. It was my dad. "Alex, there's a problem. The house. Everything's off. No power, no water." I could almost hear Emily's voice in the background, shrill and accusing. I didn't explain, just murmured, "Maybe you should call the utility company." I knew where they were. In the backyard, where the brunch was supposed to be happening. Emily's perfect moment ruined. I almost smiled. I knew I'd done something irreversible. Part of me wondered if I'd gone too far, but the other part, the part that was tired of being ignored and pushed aside, felt oddly peaceful. I wasn't trying to hurt them. I just wanted them to see me. Monday came, and I threw myself into meetings. I was supposed to present our new tech at a conference next month. I wondered if anyone in my family even knew. At lunch, I saw a message from Emily. Just one word. "Why?" I didn't reply. Instead, I walked to a nearby park, letting the sound of traffic and the hum of city life wash over me. I sat on a bench and just breathed. I didn't need to justify myself anymore. They could either see me or not, but I wouldn't be their silent supporter any longer. After the meeting, I watched Dylan retreat to his office, clearly shaken. Part of me wanted to confront him, to tell him that his presence at that brunch didn't matter to me. But another part, the one still nursing old wounds, found a bitter satisfaction in the discomfort he now felt. Later that afternoon, I received a message from my mom. It was longer than I expected, paragraphs of emotional rambling about how I'd embarrassed them in front of Emily's new boyfriend, how it wasn't fair to put the family in such a position. She didn't ask why I'd canceled the payments. She didn't seem to care. The message was a string of accusations and guilt-tripping wrapped up with, "You've changed, Alex." I typed a reply, then deleted it. There was no point. If they couldn't see how much I'd given, financially and emotionally, there was nothing left to say. That evening, I called Ryan. We'd always been more than business partners, more like friends who could rely on each other when things went sideways. He answered after the second ring, his voice tired but warm. "You okay?" he asked. I hesitated, the silence stretching. "I did something. Maybe I shouldn't have, but it's done." He didn't press for details, just listened as I vented. When I finally explained about the payments, the brunch, and the fallout, he didn't judge. "You didn't do it out of spite," he said. "You just stopped allowing them to take advantage." I swallowed back a sob. I didn't think it would feel this empty. "It's not empty," he said. "It's space. You've cleared out all the noise they put in your head. Now you have room to figure out what you actually want." His words settled over me like a soft blanket, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't the villain in this story. Maybe I was just tired of being the understudy in my own life. The next morning, I decided to break my routine. Instead of heading straight to the office, I took the long way, winding through the city on foot. I found a little cafe with ivy trailing down the windows and ordered a coffee. As I sat by the window, I wondered what I would do next. Not for my family, not for the company, just for me. The thought was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. What did I want? A vacation? A hobby? I hadn't considered my own needs in so long. It felt almost foreign. I took out my journal and started writing. Not about them, not about the company, just a list of things that made me happy. Halfway down the list, I realized I hadn't written Emily's name once. I almost laughed at how liberating that felt. I could make plans that didn't involve proving myself to her or anyone else. Back at the office, I had an unexpected visitor, Emily. She stood by the entrance, clearly uncomfortable, her fingers twisting the strap of her purse. I approached cautiously, unsure whether to be relieved or annoyed. "I didn't know you worked here," she blurted, eyes wide. "Dylan just told me." I stayed silent, waiting. "He said you're his boss," she added, like she couldn't believe it. "Since when?" "Since the company started," I replied evenly. 5 years ago. She didn't seem to know how to process that. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you never asked." She flinched, and I felt a pang of guilt. But I didn't apologize, not this time. Emily hesitated, then asked, "Did you really turn off Mom and Dad's utilities?" "I stopped paying for them. There's a difference." Her mouth tightened, and I wondered if she'd lash out. Instead, she just whispered, "You really don't care anymore, do you?" "No," I said honestly. "I care, but I'm done bending over backward for people who only notice me when they need something." Emily didn't respond. She just stood there, as if trying to make sense of the person in front of her. I didn't fill the silence, didn't rush to make her feel better. Eventually, she nodded and left, without another word. As I watched her go, I felt lighter, not happy, not sad, just free. I didn't know where this new path would take me, but for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid to find out. The day of the meeting with my parents arrived, and I woke up feeling strangely calm. I made myself a strong cup of coffee, sat by the window, and watched the city come to life. I knew this conversation wouldn't be easy, but I wasn't scared anymore. Whatever happened, I would stay true to myself. We met at a neutral spot, a small cafe halfway between my apartment and their house. When I arrived, they were already seated at a corner table, looking more uncomfortable than I'd ever seen them. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked over. "Hi," I said, sliding into the chair across from them. They nodded in acknowledgement, avoiding my eyes. I noticed my dad's hands were trembling slightly, and my mom kept fidgeting with her napkin. Dad was the first to speak. "Alex, we need to understand why you did this. Why did you cut us off without any warning?" I took a moment to collect my thoughts. "I didn't cut you off," I said calmly. "I just stopped funding your lifestyle. There's a difference." Mom's eyes filled with tears, and I fought the urge to comfort her. I knew that if I softened now, I'd never get my point across. "For years, I've been paying your bills, helping without asking for anything in return. You never even acknowledged it. And when you uninvited me to the brunch, it made me realize that no matter what I do, I'm never enough for you." They exchanged a glance, and Mom spoke up, her voice wavering. "It wasn't that we didn't want you there. It's just Emily wanted it to be perfect." I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped. Perfect, right, because I ruin things just by being present. Dad sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "We never meant to make you feel that way. It's just Emily needed support. You always seemed so independent." I shook my head. Being independent doesn't mean I don't need family, or that I don't deserve recognition. I've accomplished things, too, and it hurts that you've never acknowledged them." They both fell silent, and I could see the guilt settling on their faces. Finally, Mom whispered, "We just didn't realize. We thought you didn't care." I met her gaze directly. "I care. I've always cared. But I can't keep giving everything and getting nothing back. I'm done being taken for granted." My dad nodded slowly, as if the weight of my words finally hit him. "What do you want from us?" "Respect," I replied simply. "And for you to see me as more than just someone who fixes things for you. I deserve to be valued." For the first time, I saw understanding in his eyes. Mom wiped her tears, reaching across the table to touch my hand. "We didn't know, Alex. We'll do better." I pulled my hand back gently. "Words are good, but I need actions. I'll always love you, but I need to love myself too. That means setting boundaries." The conversation lingered, but I stayed firm. By the time we left, there was a fragile sense of resolution. I knew it wouldn't change overnight, but I had made my point. I had stood up for myself without guilt or fear. As I walked back to my apartment, I called Ryan and updated him. His laugh on the other end made me smile. "Sounds like you finally got through to them," he said. "Maybe," I replied. "But even if they don't change, I know I have. I'm not bending over backward anymore." For the first time in a long while, I felt proud of myself. I had spoken my truth. No more invisible daughter. I was here, and I wasn't going to fade into the background anymore. The next few weeks passed in a sort of calm I wasn't used to. My family hadn't completely come around, but the distance didn't feel so suffocating anymore. I focused on my own life, work, my friends, and the little hobbies I had neglected over the years. I even signed up for a pottery class, something I'd always wanted to do but never made time for. One evening, while experimenting with clay in the studio, my phone buzzed. A message from Emily. "I'm sorry. Can we talk?" I took a deep breath, unsure if I was ready. But then I remembered that moving on didn't mean avoiding everything. I typed back, "Sure. Meet me at the park tomorrow?" When I arrived the next day, Emily was already there, sitting on a bench under a big oak tree. She looked up as I approached, offering a tentative smile. "Hey," I greeted, keeping my voice steady. She didn't waste time. "I've been thinking about everything. You were right. I've been selfish. And I never even noticed how much you did for Mom and Dad. Or me." Her admission surprised me. I nodded, not wanting to interrupt. She continued, twisting her hands nervously. "When you canceled the payments, I was mad. I thought you were just being spiteful. But then Liam told me what you do at work. How much responsibility you carry, I didn't realize." I couldn't help but let out a small, wry laugh. "Yeah, I'm not just the tech support for the family." She looked down, her cheeks flushed. "I guess I always thought you were fine. You never complained. You were just there, handling everything." I softened, feeling the old resentment start to fade. "It's not just about the money, Em. It's about being seen. I was tired of being useful but invisible." She nodded, wiping at her eyes. "I know, and I'm sorry. I took you for granted. I want to make it better, but I don't know how." "I don't need grand gestures," I replied. "Just acknowledgement, and maybe a little respect." Emily smiled through her tears. "I can do that. I want to be better at this, at being your sister." We sat there for a while, talking about everything and nothing. It felt good. Not perfect, but honest. We didn't have to fix everything that day. It was enough to take the first step. When I got back to my apartment, I found a package on my doorstep. Inside was a small handcrafted ceramic vase, a thank you gift from the pottery class instructor. I traced my fingers over the smooth surface, feeling an odd sense of completion. Later that evening, Ryan called. "Big news," he said, his excitement palpable. "We got the grant for the new project. Your pitch sealed the deal." A rush of pride filled me. "That's amazing. See, I knew you had it in you. I think this is just the beginning for us." And for the first time, I believed him. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. Taking up space, claiming my own story. I didn't need to prove myself to anyone. I was enough, just as I was. That night, as I curled up on my couch, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I thought about my family, about the journey to this moment. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And I was finally living my life, not as an invisible daughter, but as Alex Harper, the woman who dared to reclaim herself.